Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from everywhere in the world. Today we are here for our Tech Stories webinar. I'm Karen, a developer advocate here at Intuit and your host and moderator today. Tech Stories are a series of virtual events where you can experience our cutting edge technologies and how Intuit uses them to power prosperity around the world. Our technology leaders will share in-depth topics to help you learn, grow, and hone your craft. In today's Tech Stories webinar, we'll talk about how Intuit's suite of mobile applications, which include TurboTax, Credit Karma, QuickBooks, and MailChimp, are unified under one developer platform by the AppFabric team to create the best possible experience for our end users. On the agenda today, we will cover what to consider when building an application, what is AppFabric at Intuit, how collaboration works with different mobile teams, and to tie everything together, how does all of this impact the mobile developer experience within Intuit and subsequently affect our mobile end users. Just a reminder, our Zoom chats will be disabled for this webinar, but we'll be taking questions in the Zoom Q&A, and our panelists will get to them at the end. This webinar will be recorded and sent out in an email afterwards. So with all of that said, let's welcome our panelists, and let's start by getting to know our panelists a little bit better. Can everybody introduce yourself? What's your role, your team, and as an icebreaker, what was your most favorite mobile device you've ever owned? And we'll go in this order with Wasim, Cheryl, and then Dinesh.
All right. So hi, everyone. My name is Wasim Syed, and I'm a staff software engineer at Intuit. I've over 15 years of software development experience, both in front-end and back-end technologies. In the past few years, my focus has been predominantly mobile. And during the course of my career, I've had the opportunity to build mobile applications for different companies and for a wide range of businesses that include real estate listings, retail, e-commerce, fintech, and all of these experiences, put together, they have helped me develop a unique perspective on what it takes to build mobile products and mobile applications for different kinds of businesses. And at Intuit, I'm a lead developer for AppFabric. So AppFabric is a very vital part of the mobile ecosystem at Intuit and serves as a platform team here. And we build the products that are catered to the developers. And if you see any of the apps outside from Intuit, be it TurboTax, Credit Karma, QuickBooks or MailChimp, all of them, they have the products and services built by me and my team at AppFabric. And I also lead a lot of initiatives that, besides my work that tries to kind of, bring a sense of collaboration among the mobile community at Intuit. And a noteworthy among them is the Mobile Guild. So it's an informal setting for developers to, share technology updates, or any of the open source projects that they are contributed to, or even just have some fun, or just clarify a question that they might have on an area that they want to explore. And we were able to accumulate a wealth of content through these meetings, and these are very valuable for developers if they want to refer for any of the questions that they might have. I'm excited to be here, and I'm really looking forward to sharing my insights on this topic, something that I'm very closely associated with in terms of the work that I do here. As for the favorite phone, let me think. I mean, I've been an iPhone user for quite some time, so I would say my love for iPhone continues to, grow.
Amazing. Let's move on to Cheryl.
Thanks, Wasim. Hello, everyone. My name is Cheryl Arana, and I'm a principal software engineer at Intuit. I work on the QuickBooks Mobile team. Been with Intuit for about 15 years now, and my work has taken me across the desktop, backend, web, and mobile offerings of the QuickBooks product suite. And I've really enjoyed the breadth of technologies I've had the chance to work on. In my current role, where I lead the QuickBooks Mobile team, I'm really passionate about combining technology and empathy to solve for our customers. And like Wasim already said, we are all very excited to be here to go over mobile development at Intuit, share best practices, what we have learned so far. To Karen's icebreaker question, I think I've while I would always consider the iPhone being one of my first to be the favorite, once I became an Android developer, I think there's very close competition, if not the Switch, every now and then.
Amazing. And lastly, Dinesh.
Hey everyone, my name is Danish Ansari and I'm a staff software engineer at Intuit. I have more than a decade of experience in software development, the primary focus on mobile applications and a keen interest in exploring machine learning-based solutions. At present, I lead the TurboTax Mobile iOS team in Bangalore, India, working towards simplifying financial management solutions for numerous users. In addition to my work, I'm passionate about connecting with broader mobile community. I actively participate in and organize events such as Tech Talks, boot camps, and meetups. These events provide a platform to exchange ideas, collaborate, and learn from each other, ultimately fostering growth and improvement in the community. It's fascinating to see how mobile devices have evolved over the years. My all-time favorite mobile device is the iPhone. While I did use the BlackBerry for a short period of time, the iPhone has completely changed my mobile experience. I'm thrilled to be here today, same as Cheryl and Wasim, to discuss the unification of mobile applications at Intuit.
Nice. So we have 2 iPhones and 1 Android. It's tight race. Great. Well, thank you all for introducing yourself. I'm very excited to have you here with me. Before we begin, we would like to learn a little bit more about the audience. So everyone should see a little poll pop up. We are curious about what is your experience level in mobile development. So we'll give a second for everybody to answer and just learn about who is watching this webinar right now. All right, polls have closed. Seems like a majority of people here on that webinar are curious about mobile development and have no experience, but it's very close tie between those who have started their mobile development career and experienced mobile developers. So this is a great wide net of people interested in mobile development. So with all of that said, let's begin with some insights on how the mobile development process looks like at Intuit. What are the most important things to keep in mind for your work when starting to build a mobile feature? Where do you start, and what are some key considerations in your planning process? This will start with Wasim, and we'll go after Wasim to Cheryl and Danish. So
Okay.
Hand it off to you.
So I'll try to shed some light in terms of, the kind of work that we do here in the planning process that goes in the AppFabric. First and foremost, since we are a platform team, there are a lot of things that we have to keep in mind, because we build not just for ourselves, but we build for all the apps at Intuit. So we wanted to have a design that is always flexible enough to be adaptable by all the teams across Intuit, but at the same time, we want to make sure that it has all the essential features. So it's a tough balance to get. Just to give you an example, we don't want to build an amazing product that's overly complicated for the developers to use. But at the same time, on the flip side, we also don't want to build something really simple, but lacks the essential features. So a lot of thought process goes into that, coming up with a design, which meets the standards of Intuit and all the apps and libraries at Intuit. And the next is, breaking down the system into smaller components. So this is an area that we emphasize more on in our planning, because we want to make sure we don't get bogged down with the implementation of the entire project, but just focus on the modules that we work on and develop them independently. And we also measure the binary size and memory footprint of the modules that we are building, because it's extremely critical for us. We have to operate under a very tight threshold where we can't exceed a certain limit in terms of the binary size or the memory footprint. And we have a robust build system that helps us, that keeps us in check. And lastly, we also want to make sure that we have a design that is scalable in the sense that we continue to build under the hood. Just to give you some examples, if you want to, let's say, replace one implementation with the other, or sometimes you want to replace the underlying chain of dependencies with a new open source library. And we have had significant wins in this matter, because there are times where we were actually paying for subscription for some of the libraries, and we ended up choosing the free options, and it saved us a lot of money as well. So having that room to build on top of what we build without having too much impact on our customers is another thing that's key for us. And additionally, the solutions that we build at AppFabric, you could categorize them broadly into 3 categories. One is the innovative solution, which incorporates emerging technologies and trends. And obviously, there's developers that look out for that keep an eye out for all the latest trends and technologies. And we build a lot of tooling and core functionality that are needed for the teams to function. And the last is problems, and we try to solve problems of different teams by defining patterns and best practices. Sometimes a pattern that would have worked for one team, we could maybe relay that to the other team, if that makes sense. So at AppFabric, we make sure that we have a transparent development right from ideation all the way till realization.
Yeah, thanks, Wasim. I'd like to build on that. So coming more from the product teams that primarily consume AppFabric, which Wasim's team works on, I think I'd like to phrase it with, building the right product and building the product right. So if we were to split them up in terms of what we would want to build, I think I would start with building the product right, that bit. Build for externalization. I think this is one principle we have really adopted over time, forcing more discipline on your interfaces and architecture, thereby helping, decoupling of kind of a logic and, better documentation. So you're not stuck with reaching out to a specific team each time, but the code is more explanatory along with any documentation to match that. It's also key to identify platform dependencies ahead of time and getting them in line, built ahead before you actually jump into building out the feature for it. We also saw the need of defining standards and review processes, including architecture reviews, design reviews, and making sure all of them come together very cohesively. Because as we moved in the last few years over, the path of modularization, composing all of these experiences together became a little more of a focus area recently in terms of how do all of them come together neatly? What are the development productivity tools that we would need in place to make sure these are done well? Identifying what decisions need to be taken to make sure that they are standard across the org, so there's no team doing something differently. So all of these put together would really make it a lot easier on the developer to build the product right. There's the second aspect also that I touched upon when I initially talked about it, the building the right product. And this is to actually quote one of the senior engineering leaders who we met with yesterday. And I liked what he said, and I'd like to quote him on that. He said, it's not only about, declaring KPIs, your key performance indicators that you have actually launched. You need to know what is the success metric if you're building your product correctly and if you're building the right product, which in this case means your product stability, the feature stability, and what is the percentage of users that are actually using your product. So it doesn't just end when you launch a feature. It's more of the process beyond that. How are you monitoring how it's working, and what's the percentage of usage that's going through to make sure that you're actually hitting your success metrics. So we see it as a very good combination of the two.
So as we develop features for TurboTax Mobile, there are several key aspects we keep in mind to ensure success. Some of them align with what just Wasim and Cheryl have mentioned. Our planning process is designed to help us stay on track and create a product that genuinely benefits our users. So first and foremost, we define clear objectives. It's essential to understand the problem we are solving and the goals we want to achieve. This focus guides us throughout the development process, enabling informed decisions. Next, we identify our target audience, which is crucial. We strive to comprehend their needs, preferences, and pain points to create an app that truly resonates with them. While all of that is important, scalability and reusability is also the top of our mind. We design our app with future growth, ensuring that the code is modular and reusable. This approach saves time and resources in the long run. Also, security and privacy is a top priority for us. We adhere to the best practices to protect user data and maintain their trust, which is pretty important. Lastly, we avoid duplicating efforts across our widgets and modules. We don't want to reinvent the wheel with each new feature. This is where AppFabric comes into play, helping us up-level existing capabilities and prevent unnecessary duplication. By following these guidelines, we create a standard product that meets our objectives and delights our users.
Thank you. That was such a thorough answer from everybody. Sounds like similarities in terms of defining what the goal is, but constantly iterating upon some of those modular capabilities that are shared across teams. So that's very insightful. This is a great insight here. But so before we move on to talk about exactly what AppFabric is, we're going to have one last poll for the audience. We're going to ask how many people on the current webinar know what AppFabric is. So we'll give a minute for everybody to answer the poll. Maybe some of you have heard of AppFabric, but don't really know how it's implemented or how it's used. So we'll do a deeper dive into that after learning a little bit more about our audience here. All right. It looks like some people have actually heard of what AppFabric is, but they would love to learn more. About 23% of the audience here are curious, and 74% have no idea what AppFabric is. So this is a great introduction into the main meat of the conversation here. What is AppFabric? And I'll give this one to Wasim, since he is on the AppFabric team here at Intuit.
Okay, so AppFabric is a mobile platform at Intuit, and it was, developed to address one of the, some of the most pressing challenges that our developers face on a day-to-day basis. Things like, we want to reduce the duplication of work, deliver personalized experiences to our developers, or achieving, scalable design and seamless integration across the board, or even increasing developer productivity, right? So if we take them step by step, like let's say for reducing duplication of work, what we do is at AppFabric, we decompose the apps into smaller reusable components called widgets. And these offer a lot of capabilities that come out of the box with the widgets. All the capabilities offered by AppFabric, things like authentication, login, observability, analytics, real-time user monitoring, or experimentation. So all of them, they come out of the box along with these shared widgets, and we have over 20 core capabilities in both iOS and Android, as well as over 60 widgets across Intuit. So that's a level of reuse that we're talking about. But yeah, I mean, there's always room for improvement, and we try to find more and more opportunities there. And in terms of personalization, personalization is a very big part of AppFabric, where just to give you one example of personalization, there are many, but I'll try to pick on one. So for the developers, for module developers, they develop their modules independently. But if they are integrated in more than one app, we want to make sure that these modules have a way for configuring their log destinations or their event destinations, or even have dashboards of their own. We don't want these module teams to reach out to the app teams and filter their logs from among the ocean of logs that are available for the for the app. So personalization plays a big role there, as well as helps, it completely eliminates the need for the widgets to depend on the app teams in that matter. And we also have company-wide standards for things like network calls and data sharing. We have a set of libraries called Intuit network libraries, which offer things like authentication handling, or your remediation flows, security policies enforcement, and logging and observability of network operations in particular. So, and these frameworks are extensible for the apps to add more interceptors if they choose to. And similarly for data layer, it's a pattern that Cheryl's team in particular, we work closely together on this, and they have inner sourced this with AppFabric. It's a pattern that ensures that all the apps fetch the data from the most up-to-date source, and it also makes your migrations much easier, because it separates the UI development from data in a way that whenever you want to, let's say, migrate, whenever your services are migrated from REST APIs to GraphQL, or even from one version to the other version, it makes it seamless for the module to migrate simply, because it separates the data from the UI. And we also have another offering, which is called dynamically configurable UI. That enables the developers to basically build screens that could be, UI screens that could be dynamically configured from a remote config source or a backend source. So overall, there are quite a few offerings that the AppFabric provides, and we also have a bird's eye view of all the apps at Intuit, and the platform team always looks for, opportunities to, like enable standards or simplify things across the org. And I mean, if there are any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you. That was such a great breakdown. You mentioned mobile widgets. Could you explain a little bit more about what defines a mobile widget and maybe provide an example of one?
Yeah, sure. So widgets are nothing but shared components with UI logic and some services which could be stitched together to create an experience quickly, right? So for example, you have a commonly used widget. I'm sure Cheryl and Danish might be aware. We have a bank connection widget where the users, our consumers on different apps, they get to see, if they log in, they'll be shown a bunch of banks that they could, that they are subscribed to, and they should be able to pull up the information or tax forms from it, right? And this widget comes, with all the built-in tooling that we talked about, all the, capabilities, CI/CD, everything that is needed for the widget to function, So that's a good example of a shared widget across the board.
Amazing, thank you. And there is one question. I know that we were going to get to questions at the end, but just to clarify, AppFabric is internally built for Intuit, or? Yeah.
That is right.
Okay.
It is, yeah.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you, Wasim. That was great. So now that we have a more concrete definition of like a mobile widget and shared components across teams, I'm going to direct this question for Cheryl and Danish. Can you give an example of a shared widget that you used on your team and how this has been beneficial to your workflow and what were the outcomes of that? So we'll start with Cheryl.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to the example Wasim previously touched upon, the bank connections widget. And this is one widget needed across the whole suite of products that we own, quite a few of them, in fact. And essentially what the widget would do is allow a user, the customer who is logged into any of our apps, to see what are their existing bank connections, make any changes to them, possibly edit credentials, migrate to better connectivity, and the host of functionality that's revolving around as part of managing their bank connections. As part of this, I think one major change that came in is avoiding the entire duplication of code right across, but more than anything, standardizing the interface, the contracts that would be required. So a host app like, say, QuickBooks could pass just the specific properties needed to, configure the layout of what that widget needs to look like. And the configuration would drive what the customer experience would be. And this could be depending on the region, the type of device, or, different sorts of variability aspects that could come in there. The widget would then communicate back to the host app in the form of any events and delegates that would then be consumed by the host app, which in this case is QuickBooks as the example, to determine what is the appropriate action to be taken, what are the other UI elements on screen that need to react. So putting all of them together, it makes it a pretty seamless experience. And the same thing can be replicated across any other app that needs to be hosted in. So the benefit I see from this is the platform team is helping developers focus on the right problems at hand and boosting infrastructure to help enable that development velocity without repeating any of those areas of work. I'd like to put in another two more examples to that, which may not come up as explicit shared widgets, but are equally very important in the same vein. And one of them is called in-customer engagement, or what we like to call ICE internally. It facilitates communication between the mobile apps and the backend by using the pub-sub programming model for widget developers. And it's pretty simple in terms of sending real-time events to the web or mobile or desktop running applications in terms of a concept. But this is critical for mobile when you're looking at how do I let modules communicate with each other depending on a specific topic that may have been subscribed to. A use case you can think of for that is when you're taking a picture as part of capturing a receipt and then trying to extract data from it. So that's where that model comes in very handy. So that's a second example there. And I'm going to go one level even deeper. That would be on the UI level at a component side. So what we call internally core UI in our teams, the mobile platform team has hugely contributed to where that should be today. Initially, it started off with the simpler components to make sure that teams don't need to repeat this work. It's progressed to a lot more, which is higher order components to build out lists so that teams now have, full-fledged features they can actually build out much faster and enable all of that, population of what that list should look like, what should the fetch look like, what should the interaction be in terms of the modeling of things. So a lot of this is already built in, and a key part is to make it usable and configurable in a way that teams want to adopt it. Not so much of here is what it is, take in use, but keep it configurable, keep it maintainable, contributable. I think these are things that have helped make the difference in the adoption. I did see a question from a participant on the same, so I'm hoping that addressed the question there as well. Maybe Danish, do you want to go some of those on your team?
Yes. So another example of a shared widget would be Triton. It's an amazing digital assistant shared across Intuit products and serves as a fantastic example of how mobile widgets can transform our workflows and outcomes. Triton is versatile, embeddable in multiple apps, and customizable according to each app's requirements. It leverages AppFabric to unlock a whole range of benefits, just as Cheryl and Wasim have mentioned. So the advantages we have seen from using Triton are, I'll list 5 of them. Reduced duplication of work. Since Triton can be used across multiple apps, it eliminates the need to build similar features from scratch, saving time and effort. It's a scalable design. It is built to adapt, making it simple to integrate and scale its capabilities in new apps. Developer productivity. With Triton, developers can focus on creating unique features for their apps rather than reinventing the wheel, thereby increasing their efficiency. Standardization, it helps maintain consistency across Intuit's apps ensuring a seamless user experience. Last but not least, reduced maintenance cost. Using a single widget like Triton across multiple apps simplifies updates and bug fixes. So the example of Triton exemplifies how shared widgets can enhance workflows, provide personalized experiences, promote scalable design, boost developer productivity, and minimize the maintenance costs. It's a win-win situation for everyone involved. So when planning app development, always consider the power of shared widgets. They can help you create exceptional apps that are easier to maintain and update while delivering an outstanding user experience. And that's what I like to call apptastic.
Love that. Thank you for that. Yeah. So you've given examples about widgets, but are there any other examples about shared modules? Just to broaden the scope a little bit, do you have anything else to add to that, Cheryl or Dinesh?
Yeah, I would like to add one more. I think this would come on the lines of observability, and that's something that a lot of folks may be interested in. So we have a huge focus on what we call mean time to detect, or what we like to put in acronyms for those, MTTD, what we call. And this is something that we think is pretty critical in terms of identifying how your app is actually doing. So if our source of an issue is going to be the App Store or the Play Store review, a customer care call, or any other form of feedback, it's pretty late in the game to be addressing it. So one of the offerings from AppFabric is on the lines of observability in terms of FCI alerts and making sure we have that tracking in place. So as part of this, if I were to call what is a customer interaction and an FCI, a customer action is pretty much just an action taken by a customer at the point of, say, integration on the user experience. So when I referred to receipt capture previously, the action of taking a photo and uploading it. So what does that mean in terms of a customer interaction? Was that successful or not? That's the part we are interested in. So if for some reason the upload failed, that would mean it is an FCI, a failed customer interaction. A lot of these alerts are now built in, and as part of the observability functionality that's been provided with AppFabric, the integration is quite smooth. Once you integrate with the right tracking, for a developer, it's as simple as track this event and stop tracking the event, so you know when something is actually done. The main area to focus on is, where do I correctly track this event, instead of worrying what technology do I need to use to track it, how do I track it, what kind of alerting do I need. All of those come in off the bat, and I think that's where it's very useful in terms of reducing work and actually standardizing those alerts. So even when you're looking at various apps and modules, you don't have a different way of looking at how each one is built. The standards are set the same right across. So as part of this, I think another aspect of it is to identify the underlying technology. So that may still change, but your actual work on the integration won't change as much. So that was one of the reasons why we moved from explicitly making those changes ourselves to contributing back into AppFabric to make sure that all teams could do it. And we have seen a lot of success in terms of evolving the underlying tech without hitting teams as much when they're looking at actually consuming it. So yeah, I think that observability would be one example that would be of interest.
That's great. Sorry, go ahead.
So just building upon what Cheryl mentioned, right? Acting fast is essential to minimize any negative impact on the customer experience. So leveraging all the capabilities of AppFabric, I'll just walk you through a typical process, how we address an issue. It's basically a 5-step process. Detect. We closely monitor app performance to quickly spot any problems. Analyze. Our team investigates the root cause to fully understand the issue. We then work on developing and implementing a fix to resolve this problem. Post that, we verify the fix, ensuring it works correctly and does not create any additional issues. We then deploy this fix to our users and continually monitor for any further problems. The turnaround time depends on the complexity of the issue, but our goal is always to minimize the downtime and maintain a seamless user experience, because the focus on customer satisfaction is key to keeping our users happy and engaged.
Nice. I love hearing. I love hearing about the effects to the end user. Sorry, Cheryl, go ahead.
One addition on that, I think I would also want to make that call out. That is, this isn't really about putting wrappers around every bit of technology you may use, but identifying what is that use case you'd want to bring, and then identifying what you would need to extract out of it to make sure that it's actually benefiting teams, not just only like pick up something and wrap it around and provide it as an overall functionality.
Right. Yeah. That's very important. So that it sounds like a lot of these modules are really contributing to an improved workflow across teams to help drive productivity, personalized experiences per mobile application for each individual app, and helped to reduce the overall duplication of work for every team. With that said, it sounds like you all have to sync together a lot. So can you tell us a little bit more about how collaboration works across teams? How do you keep in sync with these cross-functional teams across Intuit? We can start with Wasim.
All right, I'll try to answer this question. Also answer some of the questions in the Q&A, which I feel like are quite related. So,
yes.
I mean, collaboration cannot happen at one team. It has to be a company-wide, commitment for collaboration, and which I think is the main, factor that has brought us a lot of success for the platform team, right? So, if you're talking about, let's say, I've seen a question, from somebody where do multiple teams compete, or trying to build a same product? That's exactly the problem we had like a couple of years ago. We used to have multiple clones, and collaboration is, we do collaboration in many ways. Before I dig into it, I just want to make sure, that's the problem that we had before. And, one of the process that we set in place was a request for comments process, RFC. Basically, we make sure, whenever there's a solution that is being built with, with reusability in mind, or anything that's been identified as something that could be used for multiple teams, we bring it to the RFC process. We have the proposal being reviewed by lead developers across different teams at Intuit. And it goes through a very, thorough and early feedback loop. This has significantly helped us, eliminate all the, redundancies, all the clones that we used to have like a few years ago. Because the developers, they sometimes, if they have, if both teams have, two teams have the same idea of building, a same product, we bring them together. We help them collaborate, and also this, I know Cheryl mentioned about the standards, right? So having those interfaces that are, that comply with the AppFabric standards in a way that, could be adoptable by any team at Intuit, that's another key factor. And defining those contracts, we do a lot of, design sessions, core jam sessions. Most of the times the stakeholders that are involved are developers, but again, it's not limited to developers. It could be, people from, product management, or even, not the mobile developers, but the backend developers, depending upon the area of work, right? And along with the products that we build, we also create space for cross-app experiences, because we have, a number of apps within Intuit. And one good example I could think of a cross-app experience is the TurboTax experience that has been embedded in Credit Karma. So if you have used the Credit Karma app recently, you would be able to file the taxes, using the TurboTax experience. And that's just a good testimony of the collaboration that happened, at a very large scale, where you have, the Credit Karma developers, TurboTax developers, AppFabric, as well as a bunch of, backend and security teams. So, there was another question in terms of, how do we do the planning, or, how do we get the teams to adopt it? That's a very important question, because adoption will only become reality if you are actually trying to address the needs of the consumers, and also the company-wide commitment for collaboration. I re-emphasize that because a lot of times, obviously nobody wants to move out of the comfort zone, right? But at the same time, if you're building a value for the company, that could be used multiple times rather than using it once. So that's the direction that Intuit always focuses on, and it requires a lot of collaboration, not just within one team, but a whole bunch of teams at Intuit.
Thank you for that, Wasim. That was very concrete. Cheryl, would you like to add on?
I think building so that anyone on the team can use it. I know Wasim did touch upon this as well, but that's, I think, the fundamental theme for inner sourcing. And inner sourcing is nothing but promotion of open source within the organization, in this case, Intuit, which means code sharing, knowledge, best practices, standards, all of them available for any developer wishing to contribute. And I know we're talking about like, how do we make adoption better? But one bit of the mindset that needed to change is how do we also contribute better? It's not just a one-way street in terms of how do you just adopt new tech. So one example in here I'd like to take is of the data layer refactor that was done by folks on my team. Data layer is nothing but infrastructure that would help enable movement between the REST and GraphQL and enable us to build UI infrastructure. For the longest time, this was a problem, but nobody was looking at how do we make sure this can be used across more teams, whether it's within the same app or scattered across different modules. And the way it is now been structured is as part of the same RFC process that Wasim detailed already. Identifying here is what we want to build, here is what we think will define success, and this will be the contract for all teams to really adopt. So identifying what kind of architecture you would use. If you're using a repository service pattern, what is the benefit from it? What kind of success metrics are we looking at? Is it fewer lines of code in this case, reducing the boilerplate code that we would have previously needed as we had to instantiate so many other objects for every single API integration, whether it's service or repository, the caches, the mocks, each of them. So in the interest of better developer velocity, making sure we have reusable versions for each of these objects. And once you have that reusable object in there, you can have observability and caching added to those calls. So as a package, it becomes something that's a lot more tempting for end users, in this case, developers, to pick it up and use, and also bring in modern declarative UI as part of the infrastructure part of things and allowing caching of data. So when it comes in this form, I feel it's something that people would want to adopt, want to contribute to. And as part of the RFC process, the architecture is transparent. The standards are also clearly documented. And how do we want to maintain it going forward? I think that is something that is equally important. It's not, contribute and then move on. How do we keep monitoring? How do we maintain it? Make sure updates are regular and it does not, the backward compatibility each time you have an update of sorts. These are things that are very critical. An aspect that's not on the technical front, but has a huge impact there is actually the feedback loop on all of this. How do you actually give feedback to our teams, whether it's, module teams that you just maybe a consumer for it, or a platform itself that you depend on? So providing the right amount of feedback at the right time and, really jumping into the process to help fix things whenever you see a gap and providing that early on. I think those things are very critical to make all of this work.
Love that. And I love the explanation of inner source that you provided, because that is a value that I know that Intuit holds like company-wide. So it's very important. Let's move on to...
Just want to add a quick point on what Cheryl said. I think, it's the mindset as well. We have to instill a mindset in the company to have, all our developers, they build an experience. They don't try to build something that's limited to their app or a library. And that's a kind of, mindset that the developers are able to have at Intuit, which has led to a lot of inner source contributions, and we always think about our developers think of contributing rather than, consuming. So I think that's a very good point from Cheryl.
Yes, definitely. Dinesh, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, so building upon Wasim's and Cheryl's answer, right, on collaboration, delving deeper from the perspective of collaborative strategies. So collaboration is truly the backbone of TurboTax Mobile success, as we not work across just teams, but across sites. So maintaining this synchronization with cross-functional teams and cross-site teams, it is crucial for delivering exceptional products and experiences. So what we have is a solution-driven approach, and which fosters an environment that prioritizes collaboration, which results in outstanding achievements for TurboTax Mobile. To keep everyone on the same page, we implement several key strategies. I'll just list 4 of them. Cross-team meetings. The regular meetings open up communication channels, providing an ideal opportunity for discussing progress, obstacles, and creative ideas with other teams. A centralized documentation source. This central repository for documentation ensures everyone has access to the most current information, thereby reducing misunderstandings and confusion. We also do cross-functional workshops. These workshops unite various teams to exchange knowledge, brainstorm solutions, learn from one another, fostering understanding and camaraderie. The last would be visibility and transparency. This is more of a non-technical thing, but being transparent about project status, objectives, and challenges promotes trust across teams and a sense of shared responsibility between the team members. So in summary, cross-team collaboration is vital to TurboTax success by encouraging open communication, knowledge sharing, and a supportive environment. We remain in sync and continue to innovate collectively.
Yes, love that. I love the main theme of collaboration, communication. With all of that said, just for an insight, I know that we have something at Intuit called a mobile summit, which happens on a quarterly basis. And I know this was first organized by Wasim. So I'm going to let Wasim talk a little bit about the mobile summit. Could you tell the audience a little bit more about what it is, what motivated you to start this initiative? And also just as a add-on to that, where do you see the future of mobile at Intuit? And I know we're running a little bit out of time, so we might have to shorten our answers a teeny bit, just a teeny bit.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Mobile Summit is a quarterly event founded by me and my leadership team at Intuit. So some of the key motivating factors for the summit is that we wanted to connect the innovation with need. I mean, in a sense that you have a company where there are multiple teams and all of them are self-driven. So it's extremely challenging for us to know if there is an progress being made in an area that you wanted to explore, right? And secondly, we wanted to keep an eye on the recent trends and technologies. And lastly, the Mobile Summit also tries to enable collaboration across the board by bringing in experts from different domains, not just mobile, but product or backend developers, security, designers. So we want to foster a sense of collaboration within the mobile teams at Intuit. And coming to the format itself, it's usually a half-day event. And the tech leaders, they sign up to share their ideas that are that they are passionate about, and the criteria to choose these topics is usually based on its strategic importance for Intuit's vision and goals, or the transformation that it might bring in to the development practices, or the impact that it may have or it has already had on our customers. Because if it's a product that has already been out, something for us to, look at it and learn from it. And obviously the challenging part is that, we get a lot of registrations, and choosing a few of them is the tricky part. But, the success of this was, you could measure it with, we had so many post-presentation signups, and, that had evolved into cross-platform and cross-app collaborations. As well as, the summit has been quite successful because it become a, rotatory event that happens every quarterly and organized by different teams at Intuit right now.
Thank you for that. Yes, it's a great way to learn about what other teams are doing and like share mobile trends that other teams are aware of. So it's a great learning experience. With that said, where do you see the future of mobile development, Cheryl, at Intuit?
I think Intuit will consider mobile to be the front runner for serving our customers as part of our mission to power prosperity around the world. I also see it very closely tying in with the investment we have had in really robust AI infrastructure to democratize AI and make it possible for folks, whether they're developers in mobile or any other space, to really be able to use these services without having to build your solutions from scratch. So tap into AI-ready components, whether they are models for autocomplete or financial error detection, natural language processing, or for that matter, user interface design. So I'm really excited about pulling all of these together to see what we can actually build out in terms of product user experience.
That's great. And lastly, Danish.
So just adding on to what Sharon mentioned, right? Great point. So Intuit has a successful track record for transitioning from DOS to Windows, desktop to mobile, web to mobile. So now we are concentrating on integrating AI to create intuitive mobile-first experiences. The plan is to harness the power of AI to develop experiences for customers, thereby focusing on AI enhanced mobile solutions. We intend to set and maintain a position as a leader in the mobile space, delivering outstanding customer experiences.
Great. I love that. And it's very on trend with today's current landscape within tech. So very important to just be tapped in on that subject. So thank you all for sharing. Now we're going to move on to the audience question portion of this, and we only have a few minutes left, so we won't get to everybody's question, unfortunately. One question that we do have is, I've seen a lot pop up in the Q&A about our tech stack. Would anybody like to share about their specific tech stack and what this looks like within the company?
Sure, I think I could go on that one. So in terms of a tech stack I'm talking from the QuickBooks standpoint in terms of products. So while AppFabric is the platform as part of it, we typically go native first. And if you look at the UI right now, we're moving into Compose territory, also on Swift UI, the same for iOS, and pretty much using Kotlin right through. On the backend front, we are also looking at a lot more adoption of Kotlin as part of it. But overall, in terms of a tech stack, this is what it currently looks like.
Yeah, on AppFabric, we have all the products on Swift for iOS and Kotlin for Android. And I mean, we don't do a lot of UI, but some of there's a team that does UI that's called IDS, Intuit Design System. They use a lot of Swift UI and declarative constructs.
Great. So the next question we have is, what are your thoughts about the fear of software engineers or mobile developers in regards to the future of AI and LLMs?
Yeah. I think it would open up new areas in terms of more areas to research on, innovate, secure. In some cases, it will unearth new problems, create new noise, but in some cases also provide new solutions. I think a key part over here is if there is that fear and uncertainty, what we would want to up-level that to is, what does that mean for our skill sets? How do we up-level them? Because it's collectively raising the benchmark of how we can really up-level skills, focus on the right problems, even force a rethink in a lot of areas which we now take for granted, right down to how are we learning today. So all of that is going to be very different shortly. And what we need to be ready is to accept that change, use it with the right amount of engineering skills that we have, or even for that matter, prompt engineering, and tie that in with accuracy, because creativity, your domain expertise, concepts, and knowledge, that's what will tie all of this together. And that's extremely important. Of course, not to mention the actual trust, security, and the ethics that are also key to making all of this work very well when they come together in terms of a product.
Thank you for that. Next question is, what are the complexities in testing challenges, performance issues, and potential security vulnerabilities for using the AppFabric platform?
So since we consume AppFabric, I'll just take that on the question. So AppFabric offers many advantages, right, for front-end development, streamlining the process while promoting reusability and collaboration. While the question revolves around specific concerns, the benefits far outweigh them. So addressing these concerns point by point, the complexity. AppFabric simplifies development with reusable components and tools. By learning the framework structure and best practices, developers can harness its full potential, making development more efficient. As far as testing challenges, the modular nature of AppFabric may seem challenging, but the standardized components enable consistent and maintainable tests. This allows the developers to quickly identify and fix issues, enhancing the application's overall quality. Performance issues, developers can counteract the potential bottlenecks by employing optimization techniques, ensuring a seamless experience for users across various devices. Last but not least, the security vulnerabilities. AppFabric stays up to date with security best practices and regularly updates components, helping developers mitigate risks and creates a robust, secure application. So in conclusion, AppFabric provides numerous benefits for front-end development. By proactively addressing potential challenges, developers can maximize these advantages, creating reliable, high-quality applications that delights our users.
Okay, great. And this will be the last question. What is the latest trend in mobile development, and how do you keep up with it? And you can go to anybody.
Yeah, I'll probably take that. So I'll try to answer this question in general, not pertaining to any business. So I would look, keep an eye out for things like, instant apps from for Android and app clips. These are micro apps that allow the consumers to test out the app before downloading. I think it's going to be very useful, to have the conversion rate. You could basically give a sample out for your consumers to play with it. And integration with wearable technology is something that I would always, watch out for. The potential of wearable technologies is immense. We have seen how powerful the watches have, smart watches have become, and as more and more wearables are being developed each day, and it becomes vital, and your mobile apps need to make sure that you account for the support for the wearable technologies. And immersive experiences is another thing. Things like virtual reality, augmented reality, or interactive 3D models. I'm expecting the mobile devices to continue to improve and become more immersive, create more immersive experiences in future. And the last thing I would say would be, Internet of Things. So I see the Internet of Things becoming increasingly powerful day by day. The concept of connecting all your home devices together. I feel mobile will continue to play an important role in this area in the future. So to keep up with these trends, there are obviously many ways. You have technology conferences, meetups, engineering blogs, and there are a number of online courses available too. I mean, that's what I would do.
Thank you. Yeah, and also talking to teammates within Intuit, learning from each other. I think that's a great way too. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for answering and participating in this webinar. We have so many great questions. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get to all of them. But again, a huge thank you for those who stayed with us for this webinar and watched the whole way through. We really appreciate your participation and your curiosity. So thank you all. Yeah, so we look forward to seeing you again in a future webinar. If you are interested on careers, you can check that out at intuit.com/careers. And we also will have a feedback form after the end of this session. If you'd like to learn more about AppFabric, Wasim wrote an article called AppFabric Mobile, Intuit's Unified Platform. You can just Google that title and you'll find it on Medium. Thank you so much. And yeah, have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good day.